Welcome to the BrainWise overview. The purpose of today is to go through all of the WiseWays so that you all have a foundation so that you're able to support the learning of the other students. BrainWise is a curriculum that is locally designed by a doctor from DU. It's probably been around maybe 20 years. It was piloted in DPS, and they found great success. They've expanded it. They are now working in a variety of different environments, such as homeless shelters, hospitals, other environments like the jail. And it came to Jeffco at least more than 6 years ago. So it's been around in Jeffco for a while, making its way around. The intention of BrainWise is to help kids or people stop and think, use critical skills so that they can problem solve. They do this by learning self-regulation skills. BrainWise starts with problem size. Everybody's got them. Problem size, a small pot problem. So this is what the kids are going to be learning next week. A small pot problem is a kid-sized problem. It's a problem size that they can fix all by themselves. Grown-ups don't need to know about it. Keeping in mind the development of different age groups. So if I'm in second week of kindergarten and my shoe's not tied, that might feel like a big problem to me because I can't solve it by myself because I don't know how to do it. But if you take that same example and you're in second grade, I don't need to know about it. You take care of it yourself. Another problem I hear a lot about is butting in line. You know, he took my spot. Again, at the beginning of the year, this is going to feel like a big problem. But hopefully through the course of the next month, kids will learn to be able to problem solve those things by themselves so that it doesn't need to be a grown-up problem. A medium-sized problem could be a small problem that's gotten bigger. So I've tried what I know how to do to make it better, and it's not working. And so I go to a friend or a brother or a sister, or I could choose to go to a grown-up, but I don't have to. When I come to someone for help, I'm saying, this is what's happening, this is what I've already done. And can you give me some other suggestions? And then I'll go back and try that. Or maybe it's conflict resolution and you mediate or help us out. But a big pot problem is a problem size, no question about it. It is directly to a grown-up. And that is always about safety. Grown-up sized problems are always about safety. There's someone in front of the school that they haven't seen before. They smell smoke. They're not going to try to find out where it's coming from. Nor are they going to pull the smoke alarm by themselves. And so big pot problems are really significant, serious things. And once again, that's probably dependent. Kindergarten big pot problems might be different than 6th grade big pot problems. And so you're keeping that in mind. But the kids are taught, there's no question about it. Johnny's playing on the monkey bars. This happened on Monday at school. Somebody was playing on the monkey bars. He fell off the top of the spider. On his way down, he whacked the front of his face before he hit the ground. The kid who saw that happen ran directly to get a grown-up. They didn't go over and ask him if he was okay or anything. They saw what happened, and they went directly to get a grown-up. Those are the significant types of examples that we're talking about. After we decide how big the problem is, we learn about the wizard and the lizard. The wizard and the lizard is the thinking brain and the reacting brain. The wizard brain is called the prefrontal cortex, and that's the part of the brain that learns. It processes, it does math, it does spelling, it learns how to read. It's the stop and think, figure it out part of the brain. And it is actually as big as your hand, so it's behind your forehead. The lizard part of your brain is back here, and it's not so big. And it's not so big for a reason, because its job is to keep you safe whenever there's danger. It's the run, freeze, and fight response. That's the response that tells you to do one of those reactions to keep you safe. Now, the lizard brain is problematic whenever there isn't danger, and I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm walking in the hallway and someone pushes me, my lizard brain takes over and I push them back because I'm not slowing down enough to figure out another strategy. That's the trouble with the lizard brain. It's wired to react. It's right above your brainstem, so the information goes there first. Its job, it's just doing its job. That's where your emotions live. That's where that safety factor is. The reason we call it the lizard brain is because it's the only part of the brain that a lizard has. The lizard only has that reaction brain, that brain that keeps them safe. They don't have any other parts of their brain. And so when the kids are stopping and thinking, they say, what are we thinking about? Fair enough. So you're going to stop and think, and you're going to think who is in your constellation of support. That's WiseWay number 2. Constellation of support is pretty simple. It's the group of people who help you. You have different groups of people, even as grown-ups. So the constellation of support at school is going to look very similar no matter what grade you're in. It's going to be the principal, it's going to be the office ladies, it's going to be the clinic. It's going to be your friends, it could be someone in another grade, it's going to be the parents who are at recess and lunch. So school constellations are going to be very similar. That isn't dependent on grade. Home constellations could look a little different. I might live with just my mom. Or maybe I live with my grandma and my uncle. And so my home constellation is whomever are those safe people for me to go to ask for help. The bigger the problem, the bigger the constellation. So when we're having a national disaster, like the flooding last year that happened, we started with a constellation of support that started in the town. It went to the county, it went to the state, it went then to the country in order for people to get help. So the bigger the problem, the more people, in theory, it's going to take to fix the problem. That's constellation of support. Constellation of support also has just-in-case people and everyday people. Just-in-case people are those emergency-type people. And then we also learn how there's an appropriateness for the people you go to for help. I use an example of a student who doesn't understand their math and they're not going to call the FBI. Except for one time I had a kid raise his hand. So I can't ask my dad to help me with my math homework. He works for the FBI. Whoops. And so there's an appropriateness. You're not going to go to the bone doctor if you broke your tooth. And so it's helping kids decide who is the appropriate person for me to go to with this problem. And then they're thinking about WiseWay number 3. That's red flag warnings. Were there any clues in the environment and inside of my body that something was amiss, that something wasn't right? We have internal red flag warnings: racing heart, sweaty hands, red faces, clenched fists, tightened muscles. Those are all clues inside of our body that tell us that something might not be right. We have clues in the environment as well. There are 2 different types. There are clues on people that I can see on somebody else, and then there are clues in the environment. Clues in the environment, we just heard a few. Screaming is a clue. Shouting is a clue. Furrowed brows are a clue on somebody else. Red ears, fists, kicking or stomping. Those are all clues that I might not want to go and chat with that person just now. Environmental clues: smoke, sirens, signs, construction, flashy lights. Those are all environmental clues. Something's not right. I need to slow down and pay attention. So red flag warnings are those clues that something's not right, either with you or with somebody else. WiseWay number 4 is the emotions elevator. The emotions elevator happens to be my favorite. The emotions elevator is where that self-regulation piece comes into play. So now I'm slowed down enough, I'm noticing clues in my body. Those clues in my body are telling me that I am going up the elevator. Now I don't want to go up the elevator, because nothing good is going to come of it if I get to the top of the elevator. So there are 3 kind of stops on the elevator. There's the bottom zone. That's called the cool, calm, and collected. If you're cool, calm, and collected, you're taking care of business, you're doing what you need to do, your wizard brain is calling the shots, and you can have feelings at the same time. Feelings aren't getting in the way of what you need to do. That's cool, calm, and collected. As the feeling gets more intense, you move up the elevator. The second part of the elevator is the friend zone. Now, if you're in the friend zone or below, and I'm noticing some red flag warnings that you have, I can come over as your constellation of support and say, it looks like, you're tearful. I'm wondering if I could help you with something. I'm not going to make the assumption that you're sad because you're tearful, and that's something that the kids practice a lot. It's noticing what you see and then asking about it. The crazy zone is not the place to be. The crazy zone is the lizard brain is calling the shots. I am all emotion. There's no thinking going on. If a kid is in the crazy zone and I'm trying to bring them down, it's not going to be effective. What will end up happening without my awareness is that I will also end up in the crazy zone trying to problem solve with them. And so what the kids will learn are strategies to come down by themselves to that friend zone so that they can problem solve and talk about it. The crazy zone is any feeling. So any feeling on the elevator gains intensity. I can be happy at the bottom and up to ecstatic at the top, where I'm bouncing in my seat and I can't think. I can be sad or disappointed at the bottom and depressed, sobbing at the top. I can be maybe irritated or annoyed about something and intensity enraged about it at the top. So it isn't angry at the top, sad at the bottom, and happy in the middle. It's any feeling with intensity that goes up the elevator. As grown-ups, what we can do is help kids recognize those red flag warnings and make those connections. I'm noticing, that your arms are folded and you're stomping your foot. I'm wondering if you need to take a couple of minutes. So as adults, we want to try to catch it before they get to the crazy zone. Wise way number 5 is fact versus opinion. Fact versus opinion is pretty straightforward. It's just the facts. Opinion is the story that has emotion attached to it. Facts are just what happened. And so kids will come with information and they'll need help to separate the two. And that can be prompted by, tell me what you saw. You'll get to how they feel about it and the story behind it in a minute. But first, you just need to know what happened. The facts. And in order to get the facts, you have to be able to do wise way number 6, which is ask questions. Wise way number 6 in asking questions is knowing the questions to ask for the information that you need. So when we play 10 questions in class, in order for the students to practice this skill, I give them a category of what I'm thinking about and they have to figure out what the item is. The rule is they aren't allowed to make a guess before we get 10 pieces of information. Because their lizard brain is going to want to jump in and figure it out. But also, they need to be thoughtful about the information that they're asking because they only get 10 questions to figure it out. So if I give you the clue that I'm thinking about a place and you ask me if it has 4 legs, I'm going to say that that might not be a helpful question. And we might have just wasted a question because that question isn't going to give us helpful information to figure out my place. Because generally speaking, places don't have legs. And so, asking questions is an important skill. After we ask questions, we identify our choices. And in identifying our choices, first, it's empowering students to recognize, even though they're kids, they get to make choices. They get to make choices maybe of what they wear, they get to make choices of what they have for lunch, they get to make choices, even though they might not like their choices, it's still a decision that they make to come to school, to do their work, to follow the rules. So it's helping them first to feel empowered, that even though there are grown-ups telling me what to do all day, I still have the ability to choose who I sit with at lunch. I still get to choose who I play with. I get to choose what sports I do, what activities after school I participate in. So the first part of identifying choices is empowering students to recognize that they have the ability to do that. Then, when we're identifying choices within a problem, we help them see a range. Of course, there's going to be the solution that benefits me the most, and there's going to be the solution that benefits the other person the most, And then somewhere in the middle, there's going to be a solution that helps us out both. And that will be the compromise. So after you identify your choices, you decide what's going to happen if I choose choice A, what's going to happen if I choose choice B, what's going to happen if I choose choice C. That helps them recognize the consequences. Consequences is WiseWay number 8. So, if I make the choice that only I get to play with the soccer ball at recess, what's the consequence? The consequence is Johnny doesn't ever get to have a turn, and now he's going to be sad and disappointed. Choice B, Johnny plays with the soccer ball all of recess. Consequences, now I am sad and disappointed and don't get to have a turn. Of course we know that the compromise will be either that we play soccer together, everybody gets to have a turn, or we set a timer and I play some of the time and you play some of the time. And so the consequence of us taking turns, of course, is, the only consequence I can think of is that I get less time with the soccer ball if we're taking turns. But if we play together, I'm getting 20 minutes of soccer ball time and Johnny's getting 20 minutes of soccer ball time. That seems win-win. There doesn't seem any consequence in there. So when you work through and it takes a while, of course, when you work through the choices, you identify the consequences, it helps decide which one you want. Then you can do WiseWay number 9. That's where you set a goal and come up with a plan. And so our goal is going to be on Wednesdays, I go out to recess and I make sure I make it to the ball bin first so that I can get the soccer ball so Johnny and I can play together. And then we will allow anybody else who wants to play soccer to come and join us. On Thursdays, the other kid's going to go out and make sure he gets the soccer ball first. That's the way we're going to take turns. And then in the end, all people get to come and join. And when you're playing soccer, I imagine it's probably more fun than with just one person. And so you set a goal. What do you want? The goal for us is to play with the soccer ball. The action plan is going to be figuring out who's going to be finished with lunch first so that they can get the soccer ball in order to play. And then we're going to take turns. And we're going to use good sportsmanship, and we're going to let other people join us. That's going to be the action plan.